All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Let's Get Lit podcast. Got my boy Tanner's brother in here, Benson, one of the dudes who complimented me on the beard game. So
Right.
I appreciate it, man. You said I forget what your Facebook message said. Basically, if they don't love you without it, they don't deserve you with it.
That's right, man. If they don't love you with the beard, they don't deserve you without it.
Yeah, fuck them all. So not really. So let's dive right into this, man. So guys, for those of you who don't know who all the Chidester brothers are, they run a company called EliteCEOs, Fitness CEOs, Elite 360. I love the Go High Level platform. So I was actually in you guys' coaching program. I've talked to you quite a few times. But let's dive right into this. So you recently just stepped into the CEO position, didn't you?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, officially it was January 1st. Started training on that last year started getting inundated around October. So yeah, I've been like a full month almost.
Well, dude, first off, congratulations, man. That's awesome. I don't see many people get along in that kind of brotherly or family unit. I know personally I wouldn't hire any of my family just because just not similar values and beliefs, but it's very scarcity mentality. But what's that been like, man?
Uh, it's been interesting. Like in a good way, I'd say, because growing up, based on our household, and I'm not sure what all Tanner said, but we grew up in a very conservative household, very religious. Out of my brothers, I'm the one who's still active in the faith we were brought up in. And so we all vary just a little bit with our personalities, as you'll come to see a little bit more of. But we weren't really that close growing up, I don't think. I think we more so over the years have become closer. But Gentry said it perfect. He's like, I sometimes forget that you guys are my brothers, because it's business for. But it's been really cool to just kind of see them two specifically just kind of grow and develop, not only as like you know, in business, but also just in their own personal lives too. Gentry has a kid, he's got a wife. So I'd say we've gotten closer as we've worked in business, because we all just want to be the best. So we all kind of align in that direct, trajectory to just.
Well, that's awesome, man. There's a little bit of a delay, so hopefully it didn't lag out too bad.
Oh, sorry, dude.
So no, you're good. So I'd love to ask you something just because I hear a lot of people like fuck this up. To me, the definition of a CEO is whatever the business needs you to be. I
Yeah.
think too many people have set roles like, well, the CEO only does this. And so, like, now that you're the CEO, what would you define that kind of role as? What would you label being a CEO?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, and I agree with what you're saying for sure. I think too many times people they think that, oh, because I'm the CEO I don't have to do anything, right? When in reality, as you get more responsibility, you should have more, you know, put upon your shoulders. There are greater expectations from yourself. I like to look at it as a chief firefighter. So whatever the business needs. So if you need to go on day, you're probably doing your job right. If you're on the opposite end of the spectrum where, oh yeah, everything's dandy, nobody, needs me, everything's great. In my opinion, that's not the right type of mentality to have. I've always been a big person on actions versus words. And so I prefer to show people that, hey, you're doing something. It doesn't mean that I've not done it myself or am not willing to. And so I think whenever you start to build a team, that's a huge thing to be able to show them, like, hey, I'll roll up my sleeves if I need to be. Right. So, yeah, chief firefighter, that's the best way I describe it.
I love that, man. So, what have been some of the difficulties since you've kind of stepped into that role? You said you've been training for it for quite a while now. Well, what have some of the difficulties been?
uh, I don't know if I'd call them like difficulties. I'd probably just look at them as more of like knowledge transfer, I should say, or just thinking with different hats. So, over the past 5 years, I've been, stuck in, I shouldn't say stuck, but I was the client success director, right? And the VP. And so my mind was simply on, okay, how can we make the client journey better? how can we get better results? How can we make things as good as we possibly can? Where now, obviously, we want clients to get results, and I'll be quite honest, we want clients to stay with us as long as they want, right? But I'm also thinking about marketing. I'm also thinking about sales. I'm also working with our cold outbound team. I'm also working with our copywriter. I'm also thinking of creatives. So there's just a lot more buttons and a lot more hats that you have to wear. And so I think for me, it's just been being able to have the ability to think in different areas and put my energy towards those things. So I don't much anymore as of right now, but I think part of it is because with where my mind's at, it's constantly thinking of new ways and new ideas to push the company forward. But it's been great. Like, it's been a really good challenge. I felt really energized, but I'd say that that's probably the biggest difference between my last role to now.
So would you consider yourself a visionary?
I mean, I don't know if I'd consider myself a visionary.
Not even a visionary, but kind of big chunk. Like, you're not Mr. Detail, you're Mr. Big Picture.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to focus on the small things because I think if you do the small things right, big things will happen. So, for an example, like last year, I didn't plan on writing my book. I wrote a book and then I didn't plan on moving into the CEO position. Like, none of those things were planned, but they happened, right? And I like to look at it at the sense, if you focus on what you can do and you do your absolute best, right? Greater opportunities will arise from doing the small things right. So that's the way I like to look at it. I like to take kind of day by day, week by week, and try to push based off, okay, this is where we're at now, and here's the opportunity that's laid in front of us, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you definitely see the long-term vision. You just understand the micro day-to-day stuff. So it's like you understand you're running two businesses, the one you're in and the one you're becoming. I absolutely love that quote of
Yeah.
Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
But that's a huge disconnect I see between like CEOs and the people actually doing the bottom level work. Like, you have the small accountants, then you have the CEO, and there's always a hierarchy of ideas that separates their communication, because CEO is usually the visionary, big chunker, big thinker, and the accountant's Mr. Nitty Gritty. He wants every detail. He knows every type of bird and tree out there. So they never communicate the right way. So it's pretty cool that you've exercised both of those communication patterns. I think it's going to make you a really successful CEO.
Have a great team too. So when you have an awesome team and your team's values align with the company's vision, like, you go so much further. And so for us, when we hire people on, it's like we're looking for people whose values align with the company's, and it'll go so much further. It makes life so much better.
100%. You guys are very selective from what I've seen. Like, even on your job boards and stuff. Like, I like how you guys run your stuff. I will say you guys creative team, whoever's creating these ads is fucking killing it. I saw one you guys did the other day. It was awesome, man. I was like, it almost makes me want to buy back in.
You're welcome back anytime, bro.
No,
Yeah,
100%, dude.
loved having you. But yeah, we're just trying to get we're just trying to up our quality and trying to improve. And I think that's the big thing with business, is if you stop trying to be innovative or trying to think about how you can differentiate yourself from the regular market, your business isn't going to be around very much longer. And so we've kind of seen that happen in our space, where when we first started, there's only one other coaching program that's still there when we first started, right? Everybody else is either sold, moved on to greener pastures, or they're new in our space. And so we just look at that as an attest that, we've gone through it. We constantly try to keep getting better, and proof's in the pudding.
Oh, you can tell by that landing page. I was telling Tanner, I was like, that's the longest website I've ever seen in my life. You're just scrolling through testimonials.
Yeah, we want to keep getting it longer too.
Dude, it's cool to see though. Like, it's cool because, one, I was a part of it, but two, I learned so much from it. So once again, thank you guys. But I told Tanner the same thing. I love how you guys focus so much on the prospect, and it's like, I learned a lot from Alex Hormozy as well these last couple of years, and I found him before he blew up. So it's like I had an extra year and a half ahead of everyone else who's just now listening to him, so I could implement everything I've learned from you guys, him, Bradley, Nico Moreno, like whoever, like some of the best people in this online business kind of marketing and industry. And it's like, you guys, you focus on the right shit, which is just prospect knowledge. So like, you were in pretty much that side of the business for 5 years. What are some of like the most important parts of that customer journey? Because I love how much you guys stress that, like knowing where your people are in the pipeline and how to get them actual results. Because that's something I'm implementing into my coaching program, just like really narrowing down the process. Like this week, you should be here. This week, you should be here. And it's like, how do you guarantee those results? Because the proof is in the pudding. Look at those testimonials. Like I said, longest fucking website ever. It doesn't lie.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's such a good question. I think it really ultimately starts with sales. And so Mark Cuban, he has a quote, and I'm quoting it. I'm not saying it specifically, I don't think, but he pretty much says like sales is the ultimate deciding factor on how well you serve your customer. By making sales, right, you therefore get more customers, and because you get customers, you're able to fulfill what their obligations are before they ever arise. And so I think the number one thing is focusing on acquiring clients to actually keep, not acquiring clients to, serve, see you later a couple months later. I think a lot of people get inundated with, oh, look at all these sales. It's like, well, what's happening on the back end, right? So I think personally, where it all starts is obviously, once they come into the ecosystem, is the onboarding. If there's a smooth onboarding process and clients are able to get inundated and they adopt your processes or your systems or whatever you're trying to teach them early, there's a high success that they'll be able to go through the program and get results. Now, obviously, there's so much more to it, but I personally think when somebody comes in, if they can get inundated very quickly and catch the vision and adopt what you're trying to teach, then that's usually the best spot. And usually if there's a fumble at that onboarding process, it can be a little bit harder to get that person back on board. Not saying it's impossible, right? But that's the thing that we've seen the most benefit from is, hey, from sales to coaches, it's like there has to be great communication. Client has said this, use that on your onboarding. Hey, Mason, what's going on, man? Hey, Joe over here, he said that you like growing out your beard, right? Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
100%.
He also told me that your goals are to do X, Y, Z. Is that right? Yeah. And that your biggest issue you feel is this. Okay. Got it. So just reiterating some of the things they've said so they don't feel like they're repeating themselves can
Yeah,
go.
so they feel understood. Same
Yeah,
thing with the restaurant. I was reading something like the waitresses who recited back their orders or something got 70% larger tips than those who did not. Like that's crazy. And you don't even have to know what they're talking about. By you simply restating what they said, they'll at least feel understood.
Yeah.
Those are the people they build trust from. So that onboarding process, that's really what I'm trying to narrow down now, because I made a lot of sales. And like I was sharing those when I was in the program, like, hey, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I thought I was going to get a trophy. That was for the other program. I was like, oh, screw it. But
You should apply anyways, bro.
no, I'll end up doing it again. So where do you see the biggest mistakes in the onboarding process?
Yeah, biggest mistakes is definitely usually between whoever sells the prospect to the coaching division. Now, if it's just you, right, you've had that conversation, but more than likely, if you're having a lot of combos, you're probably going to forget. So if you don't have notes in a
Well, I take a Google Drive folder and I put all their notes on there from every single thing. Voxer records all of our conversations, so I can always go back and forth.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. But usually it's going to be between, whoever's had that, initial discovery call to the client closing to the coach who onboards them. If there's a disconnect based off what the rep has said to what the coach is saying on the onboarding call, can usually cause a big disconnect. So for example, let's say you get somebody who comes on board and the rep has specifically told you, hey, this individual, they really want to focus on paid traffic, right? I told them that, hey, we do some other things too to get clientele and, up acquisition, but they aren't very interested in that. If you as a coach go on that onboarding call and all you try to focus on is that other process other than paid, that can lead to issues, right? Because they feel like, yo, like I don't want this. This isn't what I need. But if you can go on the call and you help them understand, hey, look, I know you told so and so this, we can totally go down that route and that's totally cool. However, what we'd recommend is we get this process down first, get some proof of concept, and then we move into this. And then you try to help them see the thought process and reshape their thoughts by putting it in the form of a question where it's like, what do you think? And then they're like, okay, like I can get on board with that. And if they're not on board, it does you no good to fight them. Like it's just not going to do you any justice to try to fight them if you're trying to push a couple times. Like, don't keep fighting. Just, hey, cool, we'll do it your way. Here's the issues. Here's what you're probably going to run into. And I've even had times where I've sat down with clients and I'm like, hey, so if we want to do this, that's cool. Here's the issues. I just want to make sure you're okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, if this doesn't work, we're going to do it our way. Okay. Does that sound fair? Yeah. Doesn't work. Hey, let's do it our way. So it's just a nicer way of basically just telling them, hey, this is where we're going to go.
They have to learn lessons the hard way.
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm under the impression humans have to learn lessons the hard way. You see so many near misses of people texting and driving, near miss, texting and driving, near miss. Then they flip their car over. They're like, okay, I'm going to slow my ass down and get off the phone.
Yeah.
So, like, I see a lot of this in insurance agents because Tanner told me like 60% of you guys' expenses are paid ads. I see so many insurance agents getting into the paid ad space now, and they're competing with everybody else who's smart enough to go to the Facebook ads library, copy what's working. They can afford to pay more to acquire the customer. And it's like, because they made one sale the first week of running ads, they 10x their input of how much they're doing daily. So, like, what do you see as some of the biggest problems with running advertisements? Because I know you guys spend quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, usually the biggest thing that you tend to see is like, one, people don't understand that it's a process. So people get impatient. So some people, like you said, like they'll get results very quickly. That's usually not like the norm. It can happen, right? Anything's possible, but usually it takes time and it takes testing. And so usually what I tend to see is people, they start running ads and after 5 or 6 days, they're like, oh, it's not working, XYZ. And it's like, well, think about it like this way. Like when you first start going to the gym, do you notice results in the first 5 to 6 days? Probably not.
Depends on if you're shooting up or not, right?
Yeah, yeah. Probably not, right? But ultimately, it comes down to the consistency. And so, what people tend to misinterpret is the data, right? Because data and numbers don't lie. Even if you're not the biggest numbers person, if you don't look at your numbers and understand the pattern and then knowing how to adjust, that's where you go wrong. And most people will throw their hands up in the air because they don't want to actually learn it. But if you're able to see, hey, this is what's working, this is what isn't, and you're willing to be patient and test, you can do some cool things, but you need to be willing going into ads. I always tell this to clients. You need to go in expecting that, hey, this is what I can spend every day. And worst case scenario, right? You made $0 back. Would you be okay? Meaning, are you still able to live in your home and pay essential bills? If the answer is yes, then hey, that's your budget. If the answer is no, you might want to reconsider what you're doing. But I'd say being patient and then being able to actually look at the data.
100%. I see so many agents make this problem. It's like, run a shitty ad. They happen to get a lucky buyer. They think the market's rewarding them, so they turn it up 10x, and then they fizzle out. It's like they never take the time to fix their product, their sales cycle, anything like that. And it's like, even it took me 2 months, and eventually I was spending $1,000 to $2,000 a day on my Facebook ads. I know you guys do a lot more than that. I've seen recordings of how much some of you guys spend, and it's like people think $20, $50 a day is a lot. Like, step in your shoes.
Yeah,
You're worried about a CTR, CP, like cost per acquisition. You have so many things to fix. I see them running ads without pixels. I'm like, what are you doing with the data? Like, are you just hoping to get customers?
yeah. Yeah, and obviously, like it's all relative, right? Because I think we've all been there where some people they're thinking, and you said it at the beginning, with a scarcity mentality versus, hey, I know based off this data that I'm able to make a calculated, I say calculated decision, but it's ultimately calculated gambling on the sense that if, hey, these numbers say this, then I can do this. So, if you start getting results, the way that the algorithms are starting to working, especially on social media, is if you try to jump too high, just a tip for anybody who's listening, a little golden nugget. If you try to jump too high, let's say you're spending, $100 a day and then you try to jump to 1,000, more than likely you're probably going to mess up the algorithm.
Yep.
And your ads are going to start breaking and then you're going to wonder what happened. So I would say go at it incrementally. Don't try to increase too fast. Otherwise you risk breaking stuff.
I just kept adding like 10% a week or 20% of, like, in very small amounts, but it's like I ran ads for a couple months and then I noticed the quality of my clients was just getting shit. So I was like, okay, like I'm going full organic because I churned and burned a lot of people. People are trying to file illegal chargebacks, got payment processors shut down, money frozen
Jeez.
twice now for 180 days. It's like there went all the fucking money I made in 6 months. It's like, screw Stripe. I'm going to something else. I told Tanner about that. He's like, yeah, stay away from Stripe. Like,
Yeah.
unless you got a lot of small purchases, because their disputes are so like
It's not
weird with
very
their
much. Yeah.
percentages.
They don't really let the merchants tell their side of the story. That's for sure.
No, 100%. So it was like I lost something when I had signed contracts and all that shit. So now I got to get a lawyer involved because of
Jeez.
all this money being frozen up. So like part of doing business, but I learned a very valuable lesson at 25. So we'll let that carry me on.
Yeah, dude.
What are Have you guys worked with many insurance agents over on the coaching side of things?
That's a good question, dude. I don't think we've worked specifically with a ton of insurance agents in particular, right? Like B2B is kind of, it's so general, right? It's such a big market. A lot of, business coaches, a lot of marketing consultants, real estate agents, there's life coaches. We've even worked with, relationship coaches and stuff like that. Insurance agents, not as much though. I don't think there's as many in the online space as there is general business owners, at least that see a potential in the online space. And you can
Oh,
correct me if I'm
correct. Give it 12 months and you guys will be flooded.
wrong.
The
Yeah.
market, this industry is so outdated that now it's trying to catch up. All the old people are getting kicked out of the business by these 17, 18-year-old TikTokers making videos
Oh,
to get
boy.
leads. And so like
Um,
they'll be coming for people like you, me, whoever in the coaching side of things once they can't figure it out themselves. So it's like I bet you guys get a lot of inquiries from agents here in the next 12 months, which at least I know they're in good hands if they're not with me.
yeah. Yeah. If they need help, man, and it's a fit, we're happy to help. That's for sure.
No, I'll say you guys coaching programs got a lot of good stuff. Even just if they get if they're smart enough just to get the ELA course, like, cause I'm quick to implement. It's like, I took a lot of stuff out of the program. I took a lot of stuff out. So what are some of the biggest problems that you've kind of, not biggest problems, but what are some of the hardest things that you've had to kind of like deal with in the customer like journey process? What are some of the things you see in like getting people results that like, because I'll convert this stuff to my audience that way they can take it away. Like, how do you structure your customer sequence of events, customer journey to be like the most successful?
Yeah. I mean, the best way is to try to try to put yourself in the customer's shoes. So if you're able to look at a process and you're able to make it so simple that, George, right, could come in and he's, a 10-year-old toddler and he could start to potentially get some results, that's ideal. So a lot of the times what tends to happen is when people get inundated in a new process, it's scary, it's hard, they can get confused very easily, they're scared already. And so the simpler you can make the action steps that yield towards results and the faster you can get results, the more likely you are to be able to have a customer gain confidence. When confidence is gained, clarity is gained. When clarity is gained, there's conviction. When conviction's gained, there's closing, right? So when all those things happen, everything else after, it's like, wow, I can actually do this. But you have to do those things first to instill that confidence. And then by the action they take, the confidence is instilled. So for us, I would say it's just making simple processes to try to get clients wins as fast as we possibly can. And our goal is we try to really just try to push within the first 7 days for people to start, getting some deals. Because if they can do that, we're like, the rest of this, it's just going to come more naturally and you're going to have way more confidence.
100%. It's just, they really just need to understand their own process. So it's
Yeah.
like for all the agents out there watching this, what I would do is step in the shoes of your ideal client, whoever you want to sell insurance to, write out every single problem that they're going to encounter, even after working with you, and solve as many as you can. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the times, right, the common questions that come up, Oh, how do I get started? What do I need to focus on first? What do I do after this point? And so if you can just map it out very simply, hey, today all you focus on is X, Y, Z. Okay, tomorrow we're going to focus on A, B, C. That's it. And you just simplify it. The rest it'll come and it'll come. Like it's just getting those initial baby steps taken so that hey, start getting some deals, get some confidence. Then once we get that, we can start taking off.
That momentum is so huge in the sales industry. Now, I will say, like, you guys' LTV and retention rates are pretty impressive to me, just from like me looking at you guys' business. How do you like, what would you say the main points are about why people stick with you guys for so long? Like, how do
Yeah.
you guys get that LTV that freaking high?
Well, it's obviously the longer you're in business, like I was saying earlier, right? We've been in business now for 5 years. We're still a young company, but we're still a very young company in layman's terms. But if you are looking at how to constantly just make things better, then more than likely you're going to be able to have clients get better results. When clients get better results, right? They're more likely to pay you more money. Plus, it just comes down to caring. So for those of you guys out there, if you really want to know the secret sauce, it's like just show up and care. And that means like showing a genuine interest in not just the client getting wins, but like actually caring about your client, right? And then the other part is just helping them get results. So you as a coach or as a coach, ultimately looking, okay, what can we make? What can we adjust here? Let's look at this. Okay, hey, fix this. And genuinely showing them why it didn't work and what the adjustment needs to be. That's ultimately how we've done it, dude. And to be honest, like, we probably should have started way, way sooner than we did. There was a time where I was like, "Hey Tanner, we should probably have a back end offer because of all the clients we have." He's like, "Ah, we'll worry about it later." and we probably should have implemented way sooner. But the faster you can learn that, the better you're going to be long term. And like I said, like if clients stick with you, and our numbers don't lie, like the longer clients are with us, the more money they make. And that's not to just put it all on us. Like our clients put in a lot of work, but it goes to show that they're able to get results and that we're constantly trying to help them improve and scale their businesses. That's all it really comes down to. Caring.
Or how fast they want to get there. What are some of the things? Because really in our industry, the agent and prospect relationship is kind of the product. We're selling insurance through a carrier. So it's like, what are some things that they could fix in their own business to make really the product or their relationship with the person they're selling insurance to? What are some things they could fix with that? Because I like to send out personalized gifts, thank you cards. Like, what kind of things can they fix and implement into their business to keep retention high? Because if
Yeah.
not, the churn's going to go through the roof.
Yeah. Really good question. I totally agree. Like any type of personalized gift or personal touch points is great. There's a great book by John Ruhlin. He's one of my favorite entrepreneurs called Giftology. And in that book, he talks solely on how having personalized gifts can create an amazing relationship with your clients. So any type of gifting you guys can do that's not like, oh, here's our swag and here's, this and that. What's personal to that individual and then what's practical, right? So think about practical luxury. What's like the nicest thing you could get somebody that they're going to use on a consistent day-to-day basis, right? So gifting for sure. The second I would just say is having actual like personalized touch points. And part of this comes down to getting to know your customer. So if you know your customer is, let's say a dad and he has 3 kids and all of them are boys and they all play football. What do you think you should talk about whenever you see that person?
Football.
Probably talk about his kids and football, right? Like it just makes sense. But sometimes I think in the online world, people forget that we're humans because we aren't interacting in person. But if you wouldn't say it in person, then why would you say it online? Or if you wouldn't do something in person, why would you do it online? So I think it's just remembering to have that personability, really.
Yeah, the integrity piece is a big deal because a lot of people do shady things in this industry behind closed doors. I like to call shit out. I think it's my duty as a man, call out things I think are morally irresponsible.
Yeah.
So I've got to jump on with your brother Gentry now because you guys scheduled back to back. But just a last piece of advice to all these insurance agents actually trying to build businesses. What are maybe the top 2 or 3 things that they need to focus on? Or I'll just go ahead and say the first one. It's always the prospect.
Yeah.
Like, what are 2 other things that they need to focus on to really build a lifetime business and something that's sellable if they want to?
Yeah, that's great. I would just say, like, number two, on top of what Mason said, I would say is be willing to do the boring stuff. So don't put yourself ahead of the boring work. A lot of the times, the foundational pieces that you might get bored on doing day to day and get tired and become mundane, don't get tired of them. Think about ways that you can do better, lead better team meetings, do better with prospecting, have a better idea of what you're going to do for marketing and improve. The last thing I would just say is your ego. So I see time and time again, people get stuck because their egos are the size of Mars and they're unwilling to either A, take direction from those ahead of them, or B, they see what people who are 100 steps ahead of them are doing and try to emulate exactly what they're doing right then and there.
Tony Robbins morning routine. Yeah, get what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, when in reality, a lot of the times when you see those people who are further ahead of you, you don't see all the things they did in between there and that they are still doing. And so you need to have that actual, you need to think and say, okay, just because they're doing that now doesn't mean I need to do that now where I'm at, right? So those are really the big things. Just do the boring work and make sure your guys' egos you're willing to actually like accept and do things, right?
Dude, I appreciate this. I'm gonna have to try to get you back on here when you guys are free again, but I appreciate Tanner for setting this up. I think you guys are fucking rock stars. You've helped my business out tremendously. So hopefully this sends a lot of business you guys' way, because I appreciate what you do from the bottom of my heart. Seriously. I don't think good coaches get enough recognition.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, Mason.
Hey,
Appreciate
no
the
problem,
invite.
man. I'm gonna go bother your brother now.
All right.
All right. See
See you,
you,
bro.
dude.
Bye.